Welcome to Odds.com's NCAA football opening line show. Thank you guys so much for joining us right here on Odds.com, the odds headquarters, coming off a rough NCAA football week. It hurt bad. I made a lot of the money back yesterday in NFL, but it was a rough Saturday for me. We have Connor Mack joining us. Nolly Knows cannot be here today. John Ryan will be here shortly. But the big thing here is you are riding high off Sunday as well. You cashed your big future bet on the Rays, Connor, and went 8-0 in NFL. So feeling good. You're feeling good, my man?
Feeling good, bro. Feeling good.
Well,
Dodgers are in the World Series. Feeling good. Feeling good.
They are. They barely got them. But I hit both my Braves score first and Braves first five. So I saw that. Two bets on that game. And I had no dog in the fight. So thank you guys all so much for joining us. It is time to talk college football. And let's get this chat up and Adam. All righty. Matt Randall in the house. We got Nuke Worker coming to us live from Darlington Nuclear. Jose Martinez in the house. Cash Action Bets. Buzznuts 21. Ashley Wake. Adam Lassman. Muhammad Joma. The Die Hard MMA podcast. We got Clint in the house. DJ Big Boss. Jeff Parker. Andrew G. And Matt Randall says College Taint is locked and loaded. College Taint is locked and loaded. And he likes FSU this week. Says take them now. They're going down. All right. So we are going to break down the Thursday Arkansas State Red Wolves, App State Mountaineers. We're going to break down the Thursday Sun Belt battle. We're going to break down the games on Friday. Jacksonville State Gamecocks versus FIU Panthers. Tulsa versus SFU. Illinois versus at Wisconsin, the first Big Ten game of the year. The Raging Cajuns against UAB Blazers. Those all pop off before Saturday. We are going to cap all of that. And then we are going to attack Saturday NCAA action. We're going to attack the games that John Ryan and Connor Mack felt like they had the biggest edge on and believed the most. So while we're waiting for John Ryan to get back in action, CMac, let's talk a game that you've been staring at while we're waiting for John Ryan, and that is number 23 ranked NC State Wolfpack, 4-1 in the ACC, at number 14th ranked North Carolina Tar Heels, 3-1 overall and 3-1 in the ACC. This game pops off at 12 p.m. Eastern, and let's see what we're dealing with. NC State opens up as 14.5-point road dogs. They are now 16.5-point road dogs, a 2-point move towards North Carolina Tar Heels. This total sitting at 64.5 or 65. NC State coming off 3 straight wins. Last weekend they defeated Duke 31-20 at home, down 17-7 late in the second, 2014 at the half, and they shut out Duke in the second half. North Carolina coming off a shocking first loss of the season, 31-28 at Florida State. They also shut out their opposition in the second half, but it wasn't enough. After being down 31-7 at the break, after a slow start, Sam Howell went 20 of 36 for 374 yards, 3 TDs, and 1 pick. CMac, a game that's jumping out at you. NC State Wolfpack, Carolina Tar Heels, take it away.
Yeah, this one jumped out to me. North Carolina has really been very, to me, average. I haven't loved what their defense has done. After such a good year last year, I thought Mac Brown has done. He just hasn't. I don't think they've been the same. I've been very impressed with NC State. They do give up points. I think the points here is I think the spread's way too much, and I see it up to 15.5. Where do you have?
I got 16.5 now.
16.5.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's way too many in this in-state rivalry. I think NC State can get up and down the field on them all game long. Now, the only thing, North Carolina can move the ball as well. The biggest deal is they don't have a defense. So, I mean, to me, this is too close of a game, in-state rivalry. I think this is more like a 7-point spread. Maybe a touchdown favorite for North Carolina. So this one stuck out to me like a sore thumb. So I jumped all over it. here, and I'm just waiting. It might go up a little bit more, maybe. I don't think much, but how NC State's played this year, you gotta like this game. You gotta like taking the points here. What do you think?
NC State plus 16.5. Matt Randall says value. Agree 100%. Let's see if we got our tech issue fixed with John Ryan. Let's bring him on right now. John, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing okay. How are you guys?
There you go, Johnny. There you go. All right. We got John Ryan in action. That's what I wanted to hear. John, we have started with NC State Wolfpack at North Carolina Tar Heels. We're going to open up with this game. Then we're going to go through the Thursday and Friday spots, and then the spots that you guys focusing on this week. But we've started with Connor seeing a ton of value with NC State Wolfpack. This opened up at 14.5, and it's gone all the way to plus 16.5 in this in-state rivalry. Have you taken a look at NC State Wolfpack, Carolina Tar Heels?
I have. And I did hear the last part of what Connor was saying. I agree 100% that it does seem to be too many points. North Carolina, it just was never the number 5 or number 4 ranked team in the country as of last week, and now they've dropped to, I guess they've dropped about 8 positions in the rankings, and that by itself, whenever you get a decline of that magnitude of 5 or more, it generally does not work well for the next 1, 2, and 3 games. So what I'm trying to say there is North Carolina will not be a bet on for me for at least the next 3 weeks. The only thing it can be is a bet against. I
agree.
Wow. And why do you guys think, sorry to interrupt, Connor, and take it away right after this, why do you think this market's moving so fast in North Carolina's direction?
The bounce back.
Yeah, they got a big offense, the name, I guess. But like John said, I wouldn't take them for weeks as well. I haven't been impressed with them at all. So I was just going to say, NC State's 2-8 their last 10 as a road dog, but the underdog 16-6 in the last 22 meetings between the two. And this is going to be a dog for these two teams do not like each other. And I just think you're getting way too many points. Like Matt Randall said, I look for games here when I go down the card that's value. And this I see value on. So I'm all over it.
Swerving saying way too many points like the Wolfpack. Mm-hmm. All righty. We are on the board. Do you have anything to add to that, John, before we move on?
A quick system popped up here at the database. 76% winners last 10 years. You play against home teams, obviously North Carolina. Often upset loss to a conference rival as a favorite. And now he's facing an opponent off 2 consecutive wins by 10 points or more against conference rivals. So to Connor's point, you have NC State chugging along here, 2 wins of 10 or more. You have North Carolina coming off the loss. So, yeah, this is one of those head scratcher lines that I just don't quite understand. But the value is definitely in NC State.
NC State Wolfpack on the board for both Connor and John, plus 16.5. That gets us started here. But let's move to Thursday night action. Arkansas State Red Wolves against App State Mountaineers. This is App State's first game in the Sun Belt. Arkansas State 1-1 in the Sun Belt, 3-2 overall. Let's take a look at what we are dealing with. App State opening up at minus 10. Now there are 10.5 on the board. This total opened up at 63.5 and now is at 65. Arkansas State back-to-back wins with 50-plus points. Last Thursday's wild 59-52 win over Georgia State was, tough to watch if you were backing Georgia State. Quarterback Lane Hatcher went 21 of 28 for 332 yards, 4 TDs. And then teammate Logan Bonner went 18 for 28 for 197 yards and 3 TD passes himself. Both Jonathan Adams and Dahu Green caught for 170-plus yards and 2 TDs each. Arkansas State is scoring 38.2 points per game, but allowing 39.8 points per game. They're putting up 496 total yards while allowing 481.8. App State allows less than half the points that Ark State allows, 19.3 points per game. They opened with a 35-20 win at home over Charlotte, followed that with a hard-fought 17-7 loss at Marshall before crushing Campbell 52-21 at home last week. They beat Campbell, and App State had 21 players dealing with COVID. So 3 players have tested positive. 18 others are quarantined right now. Deatrick Harrington rushed for career highs of 211 yards, 4 touchdowns. They put up 404 yards on the ground. A lot of moving parts with the COVID piece. Let's start with Connor Mack. Connor, the Thursday nighter, Sun Belt, Fun Belt action. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, this one I don't know. Arkansas State, I took a lot last year. Their first few games, their defense actually played pretty well, but they can't stop anybody. And that's how it was last year. In the last few weeks, they've given over 50 points. I kind of lean towards the over and the 10 with Arkansas State. And App State's brought in coach after coach, it seems like, but they kind of have the same system they're keeping in. Same momentum. They're a solid team. I took Marshall earlier in the year to upset App State. I'm not that high on him this year as in years past. So I lean the over. I don't know if I'm going to play this. I lean the over, and I take the 10.5. I just don't like App State. I just don't like them.
I hear that.
Not a 10.5. Not a 10.5.
They're not the offensive team that they have been in the past, and now dealing with COVID as well. We're also the chat talking about the game that we opened with, the NC State Wolfpack game, with Devin Leary carted off the field in the third quarter against Duke on Saturday, and the leg is now in an air cast, saying that is the reason for the big market move towards the Tar Heels. Let's stay with this Thursday. Arkansas State Red Wolves, App State Mountaineers. What are you thinking here, John?
I think you go with the favorite here. Not that I'm a big fan of either team in this situation, as Connor mentioned, but I think you go with the favorite here. They, according to my work, have the much better offense. They're much more efficient, and they're matched up against a defense that is not as strong as some of the other opponents that they've already faced. So my lean would be initially here on Appalachian State, and the betting flows seem to be pretty slow coming in here. This is one of those games that's not in a Big Five conference, with all due respect, but it seems like there's not enough bets being placed yet to get any good intelligence out of those betting flows. But my lean would be Appalachian State.
Ben Sports 24/7 says App State at home can't cover 10's a lot of points. Viper NB agreeing with your look here. Ben Sports 24/7 says Arkansas State can score. They're definitely the play for me. Dennis Garcia is on an App State money line and under parlay, while he considers laying the 10.5. Cash action bets Arkansas State plus 10 cover and not win. There we go. The Thursday night Arkansas State Red Wolves, App State Mountaineers. That is the Thursday nighter. Let's move on to Friday, October 23rd. We're going to start with Jacksonville State Gamecocks at Florida International. We don't have much of a market. What we have seen out, the few books that have done anything, is that FIU are 10-point favorites, and this total is going to start at 59.5. 59.5. Jacksonville State opened with a 41-24 loss to Florida State, followed that up with a win at Mercer, 34-28, before beating North Alabama 24-17 on Saturday. Senior quarterback Zarek Cooper has gone 49-73 for 615 yards through 3 games with just 1 TD pass. North Alabama lost its first 2 games of the year in heartbreaking fashion, 36-34 at Liberty, 31-28 at home versus Middle Tennessee State. And FIU had their game against Charlotte canceled this past weekend due to a COVID outbreak for the 49ers. So this is a rested FIU team, 10-point favorites. Matt Randall is leaning to Jacksonville State and the points. John Ryan, what do you think about this spot opening up Friday's NCAA football action?
This is a tough game for me to handicap. As you know, I use a lot of technicals and betting systems, and I really don't have any information on Jacksonville State that would make it statistically relevant. And you did say the line was Florida International was favored by how many?
10.
10? That would be the lean. I would go with the favorite in here because their line as a favorite for obvious reasons. It's not that far away from Jacksonville State University either, which is obviously in Jacksonville. So there's not much travel here. So there's not real home field advantage for FIU either. So I have to defer to you guys on this one, just because I don't have any real data on Jacksonville State to make it worthwhile.
Florida International for cash action bets at -10 is his play. CMac, have you taken a look at this spot?
Yeah, I've taken a look at it a little bit. Jacksonville State, I watched them against Florida State a few weeks ago. They ended up, but at halftime they were winning the game. They ended up losing. They brought in that other QB, and he kind of just rolled with Florida State. I'd lean still with the points with Jacksonville State. Butch Davis, they're getting healthier. A bunch of kids have COVID, but Florida International can run it, and their two backs, Patterson and Price, usually get over 100 a game. They're a running team. It's a very tough one to gauge, so it's a pass all the way around.
We have passes here. We have Matt Randall leaning towards Jacksonville State in the points, and cash action bets backing Florida International, with John Ryan with a lean on Florida International. That's the Jacksonville State Gamecocks against FIU. All right, let's move on to Tulsa Golden Hurricane at SF South Florida Bulls. South Florida 0-3 in the American, 1-4 overall. And Golden Hurricane only 2 games under their belt. They've been off since October 3rd due to their game versus Cincinnati postponed due to 4 positive COVID tests on the Cincinnati roster. They opened their season with 2 rough road games, 16-7 loss to then number 11 ranked Oklahoma State before a big 34-26 win 2 weeks ago at then number 11 ranked UCF. 2 tough road games to start the year. They're battle tested on the road for this spot. Let's see what we are talking about market wise here. Tulsa opening up at 9.5 and now 10-point favorites on the road at South Florida. This total is sitting at 51. After beating Citadel 27-6 to open the season, USF has lost 4 straight. Most recently, 39-37 on the road at Temple. Running back Johnny Ford ran 15 times for 68 yards, caught 5 passes for 54 yards. Sophomore QB Jordan McLeod had his best game of the year and still wasn't putting up much yards, but was very good in the red zone. 15 of 26 for 3 touchdowns overall in the game. Tulsa versus South Florida. CMac, you got to like – is there a move that you like here?
I don't. I'd lean with Tulsa here a little bit. It's hard to gauge. They've missed 4 or 5 games because of COVID. But I like Zach Smith. I think he's a solid quarterback. And still, I took Temple last week, which lost. I know Temple's not very good, especially defensively, because I've seen South Florida. They are improving, but I still don't think they're that good. And I think will give up a ton of points here. It's hard to lay 9.5. I'm just not a guy who loves lay as a home team, but not on a road team. I don't love it. Unless I really, really like it, I'd play it. But that'd be my lean is Tulsa here, -9.5.
Tulsa as a road favorite. John Ryan, what do you think here?
I like Tulsa too. Again, emphasizing a lean here. I have Tulsa coming off a game in which was a huge upset win, but they did commit 3 turnovers, as did the opponent. So head coach Phillip is 11-2, coming off a game in which his team committed 3 or more turnovers as the coach of Tulsa. He's 12-4 in road games after 1 or more consecutive straight-up wins. It's pretty simple. 14-5 in road games after playing a game where 60 or more total points were scored as the head coach of Tulsa. So just from those alone, and believe me, I could probably have at least another 5 minutes of trends and everybody be asleep. But it really is pointing towards Tulsa here in a pretty significant way. So this one might be later in the week for me more than just a lean.
We have a lean at this point for John Ryan on the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. Tulsa's defense has been strong. They hold UCF, UCF all offense. They hold UCF to 26 points. They hold Oklahoma State to 16 points. Do you think that they can shut down South Florida? And if so, is that under 51 a possible move at this point? Big Ragu says Tulsa is the real deal. those 2 road games are tough road games, and now they come into a much easier spot as a battle-tested group on the road. DJ Big Boss says Tulsa under, definitely. John, what do you think of the under possibly here?
I think those are a little dangerous because I like the following situation here. I agree that Tulsa's defense is going to shut down the opponent here in this matchup. If they hold the opponent to 14 or fewer points, they're 36-2 against the spread last 10 years. If they hold an opponent to between 7 and 14 points, they're 20-2 against the number. If they hold an opponent to less than 5 net passing yards per attempt, they're 32-10. So you can see where this theme is going. I'd rather play Tulsa than try to play the under and watch Tulsa win 60-14, which could happen in this game. I don't think the line's even close to what matches the potential of Tulsa.
Interesting. All right, backing Tulsa. What did you think about that total listed at 51, CMac?
Yeah, I have no feeling on it really. But I could see Tulsa, if they go in and could win 38, 10. But I could see them give up some points. We'll see. We'll see how South Florida maybe is getting a little bit better as the year's going on here, and how bad Temple is. We kind of have to go week by week. You know how everything's gone on. Like, to me, I thought Temple was a great jump on last week. They're not really good this year. Their defense is not very good. So, and then I saw South Florida get whipped by Notre Dame. Notre Dame whipped them 52-0. And so how good South Florida, you know what I mean? So it's kind of, Notre Dame to me didn't look impressive against Louisville. So, it's tough to gauge. I'd lean under here probably as well. But South Florida can give up a lot of points, and they could get some junk points late and get this over too. I see it. So,
yeah. Jimmy, I have one other thing to add here for the total being confusing on my end, is that when Tulsa's allowed an opponent 14 or fewer points, the under is 24-3. So that sounds really good, right? Now we move over to South Florida, and I think it's very reasonable Tulsa scores 28 or more. 51 points and a 10-point line implies that, right? It'd be like 31-21.
Yeah,
so that's more than 28. When South Florida has allowed 28 or more, they're 53-25 to the over. So you have conflicting trends here that just neutralize the whole play and the total.
All right. Well, we have lots of opportunities here. Our Monday night opening line show with Connor Mack and John Ryan. We will be back Saturday for our NCAA football kickoff show. Let's move on to the first Big Ten matchup of the season. A lot of eyes will be on this. Illinois, Wisconsin. Wisconsin opening up at 18.5 and now sitting at 18, although you can still get them at 18.5, 19, or even 19.5, depending on where you shop. But Bet365 has moved it to 18. The total for this game opened at 52.5, now is at 53 at a few books. There's still a couple lagging, still at 52.5. All right. A lot of moving parts here, and it's tricky. This doesn't seem as difficult as some of the other Big Ten games that we'll get to see. After the Illinois' historic upset of the Badgers last season, Wisconsin is looking for revenge. But can they get it? They're not going to have their starting quarterback, last year's star running back, and wide receiver, who both graduated for the NFL. Illinois coming off a 6-6 season. They made a bowl game for the first time in 5 years. In 2019, they won 4 Big Ten games at their most since they won 4 in 2010. The Badgers are in a different spot. For the Illinois, we don't know who's going to start at quarterback. Jack Plummer, Aiden O'Connell, and even Austin Burton, the three of them all expected to get a little bit of time. I don't know if any of you guys have more insight on that. And then it looks like the Badgers will not have Jack Cohn, their senior quarterback, with a foot injury. He threw for 2,727 yards, 18 touchdowns, 5 picks last season, while Badgers went 10-4. and it's expected that he's not going to be ready for the opener, which means they'll turn to redshirt freshman Graham Mertz. Jonathan Taylor now with the Colts. Quintez Cephas, as we said, the Detroit Lions, and still 18.5-point favorites. Muhammad Joma says Wisconsin probably slaughters them. Cash Action says Illinois is plus 19. Illinois plus 19. I have no idea yet on the Big Ten. Mostly be grabbing points. Ben Sport 27 says Mertz is good. John Ryan, you love the Big Ten. You focus on the Big Ten. What's your thought here on the first Big Ten game of the year?
Well, I guess simply put, I have Wisconsin on my power ratings as a 26-point favorite in this game. So immediately I can say that there's some significant value taking Wisconsin. The uncertainty with the players doesn't bother me too much. I think on the Illinois side, you have Peter Brandon is a graduate transfer that I think I remember hearing that he was going to start at quarterback. But this is a complete mismatch on the playing field. Illinois was half decent last year. They lost a lot. They do have 8 returning starting offensive people. On defense, though, they only have 5. And I believe one of those is actually injured too. They do have Lovie Smith as the head coach. That's a positive. But Wisconsin is ranked, and they're one of the many teams in the Big Ten that are ranked. So they're not going to take any team that they play in the conference lightly, and that's one of the reasons the Big Ten is so much fun and I enjoy it so much. It's Big Ten and SEC is what I love. So I think Wisconsin here are lean initially, Jimmy, and then later in the week, if it's not up to 20 points, I probably would be on Wisconsin a little bit heavier.
And do we have more information on Cohen? Is Cohen?
Yeah.
Because Ben Sports 24/7 says Mertz is good. I'm under the assumption that Cohen will not be under center Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. It was said out indefinitely, but it wasn't for sure that he was even going to miss game 1. Let's see what CMac has to say about this. Illinois, Wisconsin.
Yeah, if Cohen's out, that's pretty big. I mean, Wisconsin's more of a plug guys in. They're going to bring in another running back. I mean, Taylor's gone. I mean, of course, he was just huge all those years, ran all over people. Illinois here, of course, won last year in that crazy game. I'm sure Wisconsin this revenge thing. I'm just not big on the revenge. But I'm sure Wisconsin will be up anyways. First game of the year, they should be up. Both teams should be up for it. I'd look at the points, and especially if it goes higher here, everyone betting Wisconsin. With Cone out, yeah, Wisconsin has the better team, especially in the trenches. But Illinois, they're feisty. They were pretty good on the road last year. I think they went 4-1 against the spread, something like that. I'd take the points. It's a lean. I want to watch this first week with the Big Ten. I'm not a big Big Ten guy, so yeah. I don't really – I'm more of a Pac-12, SEC, those type,
Well, that works great for us because, we got John who loves capping the Big Ten, and we have Dennis Garcia in our chat every day who absolutely – this is his favorite conference as well. Big Ragu, who stars on our Saturday show, says Illinois usually plays tough on this series, leaning towards the points. Matt Randall loves Big Ten action and hammers it, says this screams backdoor cover to me.
Yeah.
And Newkirker said the same thing. I'll be on Illinois and hope for a backdoor cover. Whenever I say those words, Newkirker, I don't bet it. Because if you're hoping for a backdoor cover, that means you're in trouble. So
that's true.
And I say
and real quick.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, I just Big Ten football, I just hate watching it. But I do like betting on it. So that's what I meant to get across. Okay, I just don't really care to watch it over the years, but I will bet on the games and make money. So, had to put that out there.
They do start at 9 a.m. for you over in Vegas.
Yeah, so that's fine.
It's a little tough, but in saying all that, so Newkirker, when I say I think a backdoor cover, when I utter those words, 9 times out of 10 I will cut the bet. That's how I perfectly. That's how I usually handle things. All right, there you have the first Big Ten spot on the card. And right now we have just a lean for you, John, towards Wisconsin.
That's correct. Yep.
All right, just a lean for John Ryan towards Wisconsin. Now the final Friday night spot on the card is Louisiana Raging Cajuns at UAB Blazers. See what we are dealing with now. UAB opening up at -2. They're now up to 2.5, pretty much across the board. The twos that are left are heavily juiced. This total sitting at 49 or 50. Louisiana coming off their first loss of the season, 30-27 at home to Coastal Carolina. That was a very interesting game. Our CMac was big on Coastal Carolina and that cash for him. Louisiana quarterback Levi Lewis went 14-24 for just 173 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. He did run 6 times for 84 yards, but they weren't able to move the ball through the air. Blazers coming off their 4th win in 5 games, an easy 37-14 win over Western Kentucky. They beat up on Western Kentucky on the ground. They rushed for 217 yards while only passing for 141. Lucero went 15-31 for 141 yards, 1 TD, and 1 interception. They are outscoring their opponents by an average of 11.2 points per game. And this is a big test for them at home against an angry Louisiana squad. John Ryan, have you looked or feel like making a move on Raging Cajuns Blazers?
Well, there's a strong system here that supports UAB, and it's one of the higher ones. I started talking about the p-value, where you take different types of parameters, and the p-value tells you what relevance they have to one another and how well they work together. This one's pretty good. So it's 78% the last 20 years. You play on home teams with a line of 3 on either side of pick'em, so they can be a 3-point favorite, 3-point underdog, and averaging 31 or more points per game after allowing 17 or less in 3 consecutive games. So UAB meets all those parameters. And obviously what that system tells you is that the offense and the defense are running on all cylinders, and it's expected to continue. It hasn't come up very much in the last 5 years, though. It's 4-0 against the spread. But nevertheless, when ones like this pop up, it gets my attention. So this would give me an initial lean on UAB, even though I love saying the mascot Raging Cajun. But further in the week here, we'll take a closer look at the detail from the machine learning stuff and see if it confirms.
Interesting spot, a lean towards the UAB Blazers. We got John Jacob, 45, watching on our Periscope. I guess he's feeling lonely on our Periscope. Everybody else watching on our YouTube, John. But don't worry, buddy. You're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. But thank you for watching on our Periscope. Raging Cajuns, Blazers. We have a lean from John Ryan towards the UAB Blazers. Let's see what CMac has to say about this spot. Take it away, CMac.
Yeah, the line's real short here. I would lean Raging Cajuns a little bit. I like the over here. I don't really like a side. It's 49.5. I think both teams will score on each other. I think I like how low the total is here at 49.5. I'm going to take the over, pretty sure, on this game. So I've been looking at the numbers. I think both teams will score pretty easily here. I think this game gets into the 30s. So should go over 49.5.
We have Dennis on the other side of that. Did you feel like when the Blazers were beating up on Western Kentucky, they were just running the ball because of their huge lead? There's no need to take risks and big shots down the field. Is that why you're leaning towards still trusting their offense and being able to move the ball through the air, CMac?
Yeah, I trust them to move the ball through. I've watched Louisiana, and I like them. I think the game just flows. I think UAB is a bit better. I mean, I just like how right here at 49.5, I think it's a little low. I think it should be like 53.5, something like that, 54.5. So I'm just, in my mind, taking advantage on the points here. So I'm going to roll with the over, I'm pretty sure, on this game. So.
All right, we have a look towards the over from CMac and John Ryan close to backing the Blazers, which means that Dennis Garcia is on the opposite sides of both you guys. So questionable moves here.
Love it.
Dennis is on the.
I'll be good. We're all the same shit. Yeah.
No, I feel you. But that makes me hesitant. He's on Louisiana, Lafayette Raging Cajuns, and the under. Dennis Garcia says, I got lucky with the ULL under last week. Both teams missed extra points. Cajuns, Blazers, that concludes Thursday night and Friday night action. So quickly before we move on to Saturday, of those games, Arkansas State, App State on Thursday, Jacksonville State, FIU Friday with Tulsa, South Florida, Illinois, Wisconsin, and the just mentioned Louisiana UAB game. What would you say is your favorite angle or favorite bet on the Thursday, Friday action? Why don't we start out with you, CMac? What's the spot that you like the best before Saturday?
Can I get back to you?
Sure. John, is there anything that's jumping out at you for best spot Thursday, Friday?
I think it's pretty obvious which one I like the best is Tulsa. Like I said, it just seems to be a game that Tulsa just absolutely just runs away with.
They do seem poised and rested. There we go. Tulsa as a best bet Thursday, Friday action from John. CMac, there's about 20 seconds. I bought you 20 seconds.
All right. He took Tulsa. I like that too. But I'll take the over in that Lafayette game with UAB. Or over 49.5.
The over 49 for
to change it up. But that I like Tulsa as well. I think they should cover 10, even on the road at South Florida. But give me the over 49.5.
All righty. We opened the show by talking NC State, Wolfpack, North Carolina. The chat liked Wolfpack plus 16.5. We did, at the end of the video, discuss the injured quarterback issues for NC State, Wolfpack, and that's why the market's moving towards Tar Heels. That was our first game. Let's move on to another Big Ten matchup, and this is Dennis Garcia's first look of the week. He's backed Rutgers here, and let's talk Rutgers, Michigan State. Michigan State opening up as minus 14-point favorites. That's all the way down to 12.5 already and going down. This total sitting at 46.5 with no movement. Rutgers will have a new head coach, Greg Schiano, on the sideline. They have a battle for starting quarterback between Sikowski and Vedral, the transfer Noah Vedral. Rutgers defense will be led by a new defensive coordinator, Rob Smith, 6 returning starters. And then Mel Tucker takes over the reins of Michigan State after D'Antonio retired. Rocky Lombardi expected to be their new starting quarterback. Elijah Collins will be the feature running back. And the Spartans lost their top 3 receivers from last season. Rutgers, Michigan State. John, Big Ten matchup. Take it away.
Rutgers is really the problem child of the Big Ten, I think. It's probably fair to say, but they are making progress in getting rid of that toxicity from the previous probably 5 or 6 years. So with this matchup, I'm thinking Rutgers is the side, and the reason being is that they have the pieces together now. If you've ever been to their facilities, they have some of the best facilities in the Big Ten and the nation. They just can't get the athletes to go there. And I think that's changing. They are coming off a very good recruiting year, and that'll pay dividends down the road, not necessarily for this game. Michigan State has, they're the team that's kind of even harder now to get players to go to East Lansing. The winters are brutal, and it's much more fun to go down south into the SEC schools for those 5-star recruits. So they have their hands full getting those type of players to come to Michigan State. But you did mention a new head coach, Mel Tucker. He's rebuilding this year. He only has 10 starters coming back, 7 on offense, 3 on defense. I wanted to mention a couple other things here on this game as I scroll down through the sheets. This is a game that is one of those 28-point type games, the pivot points that I always talk about. And it actually favors Rutgers. Michigan State, for those that don't know, the Spartans have always been a defensive-minded team first, and they played some extraordinarily great defense over the years. But in this game, there's a high probability that the Rutgers Scarlet Knights will score more than 28. And believe me, they had seasons where scoring 28, you had to add up four games in a row to hope that they got to 28. But in this case, 28 points or more over the last 3 years, they're 3-0. So there you go. That shows you how many times they've scored 28 points. But when they do, it's good. Over the last 10 years, 77-24. And this pivot point applies to really, really, really well, like accurately with the SEC and the Big Ten and the Pac-12. Not so much in the ACC, but those three, it comes up all the time. And I think this game, as a result, will go over. Michigan State's defense not nearly as good as last year. And this particular system has gone 138 and 74 last 5 years. That comes out to 67%. You play over the total with teams between the total of 42.5 and 49.5 with 4 or fewer defensive starters returning. You know, I guess I don't know what to say after that. It's you have a team that's only has 4 returning starters on defense. It's very logical that this game would go over then.
It makes a ton of sense. The lack of returning starters.
Sometimes sense doesn't get you to the profit line either, you know.
No, I know.
That's the one problem with logic. When I started looking at a game that looks so easy to go over, and I started thinking, well, why wouldn't it go over?
That's interesting. Let's see what CMac has to say about Rutgers, Michigan State. John, a lean at this point, John? Have you got to the window with this over 46.5?
No, I want to watch it the rest of the week, Jimmy, if that's all right, and then see if the over kicks in. There's also a possibility here, too, that I'll get a play out of the models from Rutgers. And, initially it sounds like a bold statement, but, Rutgers is a team that I don't think any of these guys are going to play in this kind of season in the year 2020 because they're the one team that can come out of nowhere and just wreck you. So seeing it at 13 and coming down from the opening level means that there's money going on Rutgers. So it's a dangerous game for Michigan State, in my opinion.
And we've already heard that Dennis Garcia backing Rutgers. CMac, what do you think of this spot? Big Ten opener for Rutgers, Michigan State.
This is ugly. D'Antonio, he's out. Obviously. I mean, Rutgers has brought back Schiano. The last year, especially the last 2 years, and he's gone. Michigan State wasn't like the old Michigan State. They couldn't cover, they couldn't score. I think they've lost a lot. My lean would be Rutgers, but they were very bad. I mean, last year we can say they were improving and hope Schiano brings them back a little bit. But I didn't see much in them last year. My lean would be Rutgers, but this is a pass. This is just an ugly one. So I'm passing here.
A pass for CMac and John Ryan. Very interested in the over 46.5. All right, let's move on to the next Big Ten matchup. Nebraska, Ohio State. Nebraska improved a lot last season. They have 4 starters returning on the O-line. That's going to help them, but the D-line, no returning starters. And that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt bad. Ohio State, supremely talented, ranked 5th in the country, opening up as 26-point favorites. This total at 65. Justin Fields returns after a 41 TD, 3-pick season. The defense returns just 3 starters. So it's just right away, you have no returning starters on the Nebraska D-line. The Ohio State, we know how talented they're going to be, even though they only return 3 starters. But at that point, you understand why this total opens at 65. Take it away, John. Big Ten action here.
This is a matchup where I would like to see the Cornhuskers taking another step forward under Scott Frost. You may remember during the beginning of the pandemic, he was threatening to leave the conference for 1 year just so his team could play. And granted, the pandemic in Nebraska was a lot less than places like where Rutgers is located in New Jersey. In this matchup, though, Ohio State could score 65 on their own. And we've seen it time and time again where they get an opponent down that is inferior to them and you see the final score, and it's like Clemson this past week. So I wouldn't want to play this game. My heart tells me I would love to see Nebraska, cover the spread, make it a little bit of a game to show that they're taking a couple steps forward to close the gap down. But it's just too risky to bet that total.
What do you think of Muhammad Joma, which is probably a really salient point, saying Muhammad Joma says, especially given, so he says, honestly, 26 looks short. And he says, especially given the situation Ohio State is in, only playing like 6 games, it says they have to lay it on teams for ranking purposes. Says this team just doesn't take their foot off the gas. Ultimate bullies, the Ohio State. What do you think of the need to run up the score against these teams?
Well, supposedly with the committee now, they're not taking that into consideration, and I guess they factored it out of the statistical models they use to evaluate the strength of schedule. But still, when you have a superior roster and the score is 42-3, and you bring in those second and third units from Ohio State, those kids are eager to make an impression on the coaching staff. So there's really not that much difference between the depth chart sometimes, but there would be a huge drop-off with Nebraska knowing that they've already lost the game and still have their starters in defensively. So that we've all seen that over the years. A team gets down and they take the foot off the gas pedal and good sportsmanship, but the score gets worse. So I don't think Ohio State with these short seasons is going to want to beat everybody 70-3 whenever possible. I guess I would like to believe that is true.
Yeah. Let's see if they do it.
Yeah. I don't think it gets them any extra credit by walloping any team on their schedule that's an obvious inferior team.
I hear you. That makes sense. CMac, Ohio State, 26-point favorites. You going to lay it?
No. But I would with Ohio State if I had a free bet. But Nebraska's been so bad. If you told me like the last few years I'm going and betting Nebraska, I'd just stop it. Just slap me. I mean, they have just ruined me the last few years. So I know it's a lot, but I think Ohio State could cover it. I like to think every year Nebraska's turn around. They start out 3-0 against them, and then they just 6-6. No. Pass. Pass.
Jordy Nordman's going to lay it with Ohio State. Shannon Dan is going to take Ohio State first half. And Fernando Encinas in the house, he agrees with Shannon Dan on Ohio State first half. We have John Ryan. Do I leave that as a lean towards Ohio State for you?
No, I'll pass for the game for now. Okay. It's way too uncertain in my opinion.
And Gregory Simmons says no play. All right, let's move on to the 3:30 p.m. Big Ten spot. Penn State, Indiana. Sean Clifford returns as quarterback for Penn State. Last season, 2,654 yards, 23 touchdowns, 7 picks. Also rushed for 402 yards and 5 touchdowns. Running back Journey Brown returns. Last year, he ran for 890 yards, 12 touchdowns. Defensively, only 4 starters returning from last year, and the only returning starter on the defensive line, Shakatoni. And, he led Penn State with 6.5 sacks last year. He was a beast. Last season, Indiana won 8 games for the first time in 26 years. Michael Penix Jr. returns as a starting quarterback. He was lost in November of last year with injury for the remainder of the season. In Penix's 6 starts, the Hoosiers went 5-1. Stevie Scott returns as lead running back. Top wide receiver also returning, Wap Billior. And him and Penix have a connect. They like each other a lot. And they're a dynamic duo here. But Fillier could probably make anybody look good. He caught for over 1,000 yards last year. Micah McFadden returns, their top linebacker, as is Ball, their top safety, their top corner. Mullen also returning as well. Penn State, Indiana. Let's see what we're dealing with. We've already heard that a taint play of the day from our very own Matt Randall is on Penn State. Let's see what we are getting offered here from a market perspective. Penn State opening up at 6.5. There's a 6 at a couple books, and this total at 57.5. It's Big Ten. So let's go to Big John Ryan. Penn State, Indiana. What do you think here?
Well, I like Penn State quite a bit in this situation. They've dominated this series. They're 22-1. The only time that Indiana beat them was fairly recent ago. I paused because I thought I knew. I think it's 2014. Actually, it's 2016. And Indiana has played much better football in the Big Ten since then. They've made Penn State work like dogs to get wins. And last year they escaped at home with a 34-27 win. The year before that was 35-28, if I'm right. So Indiana is not going to be a team that head coach James Franklin is going to take lightly, especially to open up the season. I think it's an advantage for Penn State to open up the season with a competitive game because the path to the Big Ten championship runs through, again, Michigan, Ohio State. All three of those teams are in the same division of the Big Ten, making the Eastern Division much, much stronger than the Western Division. And that's the way they have it set up. But not going out on a limb here, and I have actually bet this, is I think Penn State can make it to the college football playoff. So you guys didn't fall off your chairs, so that's a good sign.
Really?
But I really do think that
I was.
They have a shot at it here to upset. It's a round robin between Michigan and Ohio State every year. So if they take care of Ohio State, since they are clearly the much better team than the other two, then they have to take on Michigan, who they've kind of owned here recently. And believe me, I saw it was the national TV game. I was at Penn State, and I didn't buy this shirt there. This was just bought. Just kidding. But anyway, that game was an 8:00. The tailgating there is just unbelievable. There has to be 400 acres of land with they estimated at over 200,000 people. The stadium holds 111. It's the second biggest in the country. And believe me, Happy Valley does not like Harbaugh in the least. And it was amazing, just an amazing experience in that game. So that's the must-have in this season. So they can't overlook Indiana. I think they'll win by double digits. I've already run the models on it. It's a 7-star play, so you can put me down for that. They have 15 starters coming back. So you have Clifford, the quarterback, coming back this year. The tight end, Freiermuth, if he doesn't go in the first 2 rounds or the second round of the NFL draft, then I don't know what I'm talking about. They have 4 of the 5 offensive linemen coming back, and that's critical. You've heard me say time and time again that when you have that kind of returning unit coming back, especially with an elite program, which I think Penn State is it's borderline elite. It's not Clemson, it's not Alabama, it's not plug and play yet. But now that I think about it, Franklin actually just went ahead of Harbaugh in recruiting in the Big Ten Conference. Franklin has more 4 and 5-star recruits going to Penn State than ever before, and he just leapfrogged over Michigan. Still light years away from Ohio State, but at least they're closing the gap. So in terms of the technicals here, from the model, this is what I ran this morning. Penn State's going to score 28 points or more, and they're going to average a minimum of 6 rushing yards per attempt. I think that's very likely to happen. I think the majority of people would agree with that. So in previous away games installed as a favorite and meeting these measures has earned the Lions a perfect 11-0 straight-up record and an 8-2 against the spread mark for 80% winning bet, and those bets covered by 14 points. So I don't think it's unreasonable at all to think Penn State scores 28 and rushes the ball for 6 yards an attempt.
7-star play for John Ryan on number 8 ranked Penn State. CMac, what are you thinking here? Penn State, Indiana.
Yeah, I'd go Penn State here, and I would take it before. I have a feeling it'll go. Obviously, when I saw it open 7.5, it's dropped to 6.5. I think it'll go over 7, especially by kickoff. But I'm sure you could get it now. If you like Penn State, take it. I'm leaning. I don't know if I'm going to take it. I've been a big Indiana backer as a dog at home. This isn't enough points for me to pull the trigger with Indiana. And I think Penn State's for real. I mean, Clifford's back, like John was saying. They got a great defense. I don't know if they're college football playoff. Maybe. We'll see.
Reach. I admit it.
It's not that far of a reach, actually. I mean, but like you said, it goes through right now Ohio State and Michigan's just, I don't know. They're horrible. So Penn State would be my lean here, as long as it's under a TD. So.
And it is under a TD right now. We can't look at where the money and tickets are going at this point in the week on Monday. But there you have it. Penn State 7-star play. John Ryan, a lean for now. And is this going to end up being a no play for you, CMac, or do you think you might get to the window at the 6.5?
I might. I got to look at it more.
All right.
I haven't delved into that game too much. I didn't look at it real deep.
Big Ten Penn State action. All righty. Let's move over to the ACC. We have Virginia Tech at Wake Forest. Virginia Tech 3-1 in the ACC. Wake Forest 1-2 in the ACC. Excuse me. Both teams averaging 40-plus points per game. Virginia Tech bounced back from their first loss of the season, 56-45 North Carolina, to pummel Boston College 40-14 at home. Wake Forest coming off a big 40-23 win at Virginia. They outscored Virginia 20-3 in the second half. We have Virginia Tech opening at -7 at Bet365 and quickly going to 9.5. This total sitting at 70. CMac 19th ranked Virginia Tech. Do you agree with this market move from 7 to 9.5 for the road favorite?
I don't. I like Wake Forest here. I love it. I didn't see much. Virginia Tech looked well last week. Boston College, which I took, they shot themselves in the foot. They fumbled, 3 times, but they moved it well, and I think they would have covered that game. Wake Forest has played well this year. I think this game is, what do you have as the total?
This total right now, sorry, I just had it up here, is sitting at 70 right across the board.
Yeah, that's reaching. I think points will be scored in bunches. I like Wake Forest in this spot, and I'm in a wait. I see a 9.5. I think it might get over 10. I'm definitely pulling the trigger with Wake Forest. You know me, I love a double-digit dog at home, and I think Wake Forest is a solid football team who can get up and down the field. I like their offense. Yeah, they give up chunks of plays, but so does Virginia Tech. They haven't, even last game, like I said, winning against BC, they kind of got lucky there. Wasn't impressed with their defense that much at all. So I'll take the road dog here if I can get over 10. And I don't know about the over. I did 70. I mean, games that you in the 70s have been going over, and the last 3 weeks, because I've been on a lot of overs with everything going on with COVID and no fans. It kind of helps. I mean, and they're all every week's 18-11, 16-12, 20-11 to the overs these last 3-4 weeks. So I lean that way, but I definitely want the points, especially getting over 10 with Wake Forest.
Czar says Wake seems sharp. Cash Action's already on Wake. Ron Crawford says Wake beat a garbage Virginia team. Let's see what John Ryan has to say about 19th ranked Virginia Tech at Wake Forest.
Well, the betting line implies a final score of 41-30 in favor of Virginia Tech. So if you think that Wake Forest can score 28 or more, you should know that Virginia Tech is 4-12 the last 3 years and 19-75 that's the last 10 years when they've allowed 28 or more points in a game. So I think that dovetails right into what Connor's talking about here. When they've allowed, the Hokies have allowed 6.5 to 7.5 yards per play. They're 17-39.
Yeah.
So that works into a possible play on Virginia Tech. However, the news for Wake is not good either when they allow 28 in past years. They're 3-12 last 3 years, 41 and 106 since the last 10 years. So that kind of offsets my enthusiasm for taking Wake then. The one thing when you work with these, what I call these pivot numbers, is that programs change. And Wake Forest is definitely better than they've been in other editions the last 5 years. So you kind of have to, maybe draw a line through these numbers on Wake, that they're 3-12 the last 3 years, and that because of their improvement, the number of the past 3 years becomes a little bit less relevant. But I do like Connor's idea with Wake Forest here, staying close.
Yeah, they were pretty rough the last 3 years, like you said. They kind of ran it down here. But I watched them towards the end of last year, and I just think they can put up points. I mean, they lost to NC State 42-45. They beat Virginia. I think they can hang here. And give me 10 points at home. I'll take Wake Forest.
Well, let's
see. It was a good win, Connor, because they were coming off a game against Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
And, having to be focused and step up like that, I think that's a pretty impressive win.
I do too. And everyone's saying Virginia, they might not be that great, but Virginia's still Virginia. They're in the ACC championship game last year. They got blown out by Clemson, but everybody has. So, I mean, I love it here. I'll take the 10.
We will see if it gets there. CMac will back.
I'll be waiting.
Forest if it gets to 10. That is the spot right now. Let's move on to Notre Dame at Pittsburgh. More ACC action. Notre Dame 4-0, 3-0 in the ACC. Pittsburgh 3-3, 2-3 in the ACC. After beating Florida State and USF by combined 94-26, the Irish barely squeaked by Louisville at home, 12-7 on Saturday. All the guys in the chat said there was still value on the under at 61.5, and just because that 365 opened it at 64, I didn't want to feel like I got, came late to the party. Only cleared that by 40-plus points. Pittsburgh coming off 3 straight losses. So last week they lost 31-19 at Miami without Kenny Pickett. Joey Yellen came in, went for 22-46 for 277 yards and 1 TD. Notre Dame, Pittsburgh. Notre Dame opening up is 9.5-point road favorites. That's now 10.5. 11s, and there are 11.5s on the board now for Notre Dame. This total sitting at 48. CMac, ACC action. Take it away.
Yeah, Notre Dame looked bad last week. I can't get a read on them. Of course, I think they have the more talent. I think they got a pretty good defense. Ian Book, he's kind of one of these quarterbacks. I guess he's a little bit better, but like the Bo Nix or Kellen Mond, these guys are fade guys for me. They just don't get it done. And he's just, I know last year he had gaudy stats, but he hasn't looked great at all this year. I'd like to have Pickett back, but the backup played pretty well in Miami. They covered. So I like Pittsburgh here as a double-digit dog at home, of course. So especially if Pickett's playing, we'll see. This one I'm going to sit and watch during the week, but that's my lean here. Miss Pitt.
It has moved up to 11.5 at some books right now. Prince of the City, he loves fading the Irish.
Mm-hmm.
He had Louisville money line last week, and that almost came through for a giant score.
Almost.
And now he wants Panthers money line. Let's see what John Ryan has to say about this ACC matchup. Irish Panthers, take it away.
I'm with Connor on this. I think it's one that you watch. It's very confusing line to me. Initially, I thought that this line should be 12-13 in favor of Notre Dame. I had Louisville this past week, which I'll be honest, that final score surprised me. I thought it would have been much, much higher scoring.
Oh, yeah.
Louisville to cover than that. If it was a defensive struggle, Notre Dame was going to win 24-3. So Notre Dame, won 4. They've only covered 1 game of those 4. And now you have Pittsburgh losing 3 straight after being ranked. All 3 against the spread. All 3 games going over, which initially to me means bad defense. And they're only 9.5. They're only getting 9.5. I mean, to me, maybe others don't think the same way, but to me, that doesn't seem like near enough. And the line sometimes tells us stuff. Like I'm thinking, well, it's not near enough. Then maybe the play is Pitt, despite losing 3 in a row and being such an ugly home dog right now. But I can't, like you said it perfectly, Connor. I can't get a read on Notre Dame either now. They look like a team that could roll right into the playoffs and give Clemson a hell of a run for their money. But after last week against Louisville, to score 12, I think it was 4.
That was so ugly, that game. That was horrible. They looked horrible. That was hard to watch. This could still go up. I think this could go up. People bet on Notre Dame, and, I have my own, Notre Dame thing. I love fading them, too. I just think they're ridiculously priced. They're like the Yankees or the Dodgers, these teams, and especially at home. But on the road, I don't think they should even be 11. I think it goes up. I think Pitt here, this is maybe where they get right. They're at home. They're going to be up for this game. So I'm going to watch it during the week. Hopefully it goes up a little more. I see people bet Notre Dame here a little bit more. But we'll see. But I like Pitt.
One last thing on it. I do have a few money flow indicators here from the ones I track. There's 71% of the bets are on Notre Dame right now, and nearly 80% of the money is on Notre Dame. So that does support our theme that if you really had to bet this game, it's Pitt.
Yeah, I'm looking at that.
But I'm a pass.
We have passes early at this point, and Ron Crawford saying that Pickett might require surgery. CMac wanting to wait and see how high this line goes up. Let's move over to number 17th ranked Iowa State at number 6th ranked Oklahoma State. Big 12 action. Iowa State 3-1 overall, 3-0 in the Big 12. Oklahoma State 3-0, 2-0 in the Big 12. Let's see what we are dealing with here. Oklahoma State 3.5-point favorites. That's right across the board. And this total opened up at 53. It's now at 54. Iowa State coming off their third straight win, 31-15 at home over Texas Tech. Oklahoma hasn't played since a 47-7 win over Kansas. Their game against Baylor postponed due to Baylor's positive COVID test. So this is a rested squad. Iowa State, Oklahoma State. John Ryan, take it away.
I like Iowa State in this game. Earlier this year, on one of the shows, we were talking about Iowa State, Oklahoma. And Oklahoma lost that game as well to Iowa State, but that was at Iowa State. This is a road game for the Cyclones. But I think it's a game that they can win. Oklahoma State is ranked 6th this week, I think. And if I'm wrong, they're ranked 5th or 7th, but they're in that middle of that top 10. Iowa State is only a 3.5-point underdog going to Oklahoma State. The fact that it's that low tells me that these teams are pretty much equal in terms of their overall strength. So in a neutral type environment, if we ever had that again, this would be a pick'em game. There's not going to be, to my knowledge, there's not going to be a full stadium just yet in the Midwest stadiums, which we've talked about time and time again, how it gives such an advantage to the road team. And why, as Connor mentioned earlier in the show, the overs have been going over in abundance. So with Iowa State having that advantage to be able to call audibles, especially on third downs, without the stadium just rocking and you can't hear anything, that's huge. And I also think Iowa State is actually the better team. And I know we could debate that all afternoon with our chat friends in there and have a good old time. But I really think this is a game that Iowa State comes away with a win.
The cappers in the chat agreeing cash action bets on Iowa State. The Czar liking Iowa State too. Let's see what CMac has to say about Iowa State here on the road as 3.5-point dogs.
Yeah, I'm a big Iowa State fan. I have been the last few years. I don't know about this spot though. I know Oklahoma State hasn't played well. This one just got me. I went over this last night, and if I took Iowa State, I'd take a money line to win. I think Oklahoma State either, like you said, they're so far up the ranking. I don't think they're that high of a ranked team, but they are at home. the line is short. It's a tough one. This one was just a head scratcher. You got to think Oklahoma State starts scoring at some point. It's just been a weird year. Mike Gundy's team plays defense and they don't score. Come on. Yeah.
It's
40. I'm a man, you know. Whatever. So his offense usually has been great. It's a pass. Sorry. It's Iowa State or pass. Iowa State money line or pass.
And I think fundamentally here, one matchup to watch, and maybe we can talk about it later in the week, is Gundy as a coach has not done well against good rushing defensive fronts that are able to stop the run.
Yeah.
That would make Gundy's offense one-dimensional, which, as you said, that's what we're used to seeing with him is just a gunslinger and just keep piling on the points and hope you have more than the opponent. But I think that's where you're going to – like you're watching the first quarter, I usually watch the line of scrimmage, for the penetration on one side or the other. For example, the first nightmare I had was the Georgia-Alabama game this past week where Georgia was just blowing them off the line. I obviously had Georgia, and I was feeling pretty good at that point. Didn't matter what the score was. They were just annihilating. But later in the game, you make adjustments, and it doesn't matter. Such could be the case in this game. But Oklahoma State doesn't have the depth that an Alabama has. But I think that's going to be the difference in the game is the Iowa State defensive front seven.
And the chat agreeing. A lot of people backing Iowa State here, except for Ben Sports 24/7 says Oklahoma State. Says Iowa State didn't cover last game at home. Don't see them covering this one. And the Czar says Georgia was the play until the drop passes and the picks. I remember it well. All right, Iowa State. CMac saying Iowa State or pass. John in the chat on Iowa State. Ben Sports 24/7 on Oklahoma State. All right, let's move on to Baylor, Texas. More Big 12 action. See what we are dealing with here. Baylor opening up as 11-point favorites, and this is dropped all the way to 8.5. So we've already seen a 3-point move towards Texas. Let's see the last few games here. Baylor coming off a...
Wait. You mean Texas is the favorite?
Oh, sorry. Did I say Baylor?
Yeah.
My fault. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes. Texas is now 11-point favorites. And
I got 9s.
They opened shit. Sorry. Jesus. All right, let's bring this back. Yes. Texas opened at 11, and it's all the way down to 8.5. There are 9s on the board, but 80% of the books have moved it down to Texas 8.5-point favorites. This total has dropped from 64 to 61. Baylor coming off a 27-21 double overtime loss at West Virginia, but that was 2 weeks ago due to COVID issues. And I can only imagine that the reason why this line is dropping is that the reports are coming that they're going to have a lot of their players available and that it's not as big of an issue. Texas coming off a quadruple overtime loss, 53-45 to at Oklahoma. And that is where we stand right now. Another game that has COVID and lack of home crowd issues to deal with. Let's go to Connor Mack right now. CMac, Baylor, Texas.
Yeah, with the lack of home crowd, this was one that shot out me. Texas hasn't been able to stop anyone. And there's a 61.5. I think this game goes over. And I lean Baylor. Obviously, it's dropping. I haven't been impressed with Texas all year. They just – Ellinger, everyone gave them all the hype. They've just looked average to me. I think it's too many points. They are at home. But I'm leaning the 9, and I like the over in this one. I'll stay on it because of the COVID. But, yeah, no home crowd. It just – they can't stop anybody, Texas, or minimal home crowd. Sorry to say. They probably have. I like Baylor enough to get up and down with them. This game should easily go in the 30s, I believe. Texas will get theirs. So that's why I'm more on the total, the over, than the side. I still like Baylor. I wish it was 10. It's dropped. People are obviously betting Baylor here early. So, yeah, that's my breakdown there.
This total has dropped 3 points from the opener at Bet365
It's
from
dropped.
64 to 61, which is interesting. Let's hear what John Ryan has to say. Big 12 battle, Baylor, Texas.
Well, I agree with you, Connor. It was disappointing actually for Texas. All the research I had done indicated that they were going to have one of the best defensive units in the nation, at least in the Big 12.
Yeah.
They had 9 starters returning on defense, and they've done nothing short but underperform, and that's not even the right word. I can't say the word that I should be saying. Anyway, Texas has allowed 56 at Texas Tech, 33 in a loss at TCU, and, of course, the Red River rivalry with an all-time record combined score of 98 points in that quadruple overtime where they somehow couldn't kick a field goal. So that, even though it was 2 weeks ago, that sting, knowing that rivalry the way I know it pretty well, it's hard for them not to think their season's done. They had high aspirations, high expectations, and now you just plummet right down the abyss. Baylor hasn't played in 3 weeks, and those guys want to play. I mean, not that Texas doesn't, but you understand what I'm saying. They're anxious to get out on the field and play the game. So it's a game that I'm going to pass on. But if I had to pick a side, it would be Baylor.
Baylor to cover. What do you think of this total that's gone from 64 to 61?
That's a tough call. I understand what you're saying with the players being made more available. I really would have to wait till Friday to get all the new news in, who's playing, who's not. It's almost like watching the NFL now. It's so hard to determine who is playing.
Agree. It's so hard early in the week. I used to love jumping on these early lines. It's so difficult right now to do this. You got to wait till the last minute on on these games. And the lines have been moving radically, especially on Saturday, right before kickoff. Points, 3-4 points, and the total. So, because everyone's getting in right then. This COVID has really made my handicapping. I know we're doing a preview show, Jimmy, but it's really had to make me wait on games really a lot this year with it. So, yeah, definitely keep all that. Look it up as the week goes on.
All right, so we have a lot of cappers leaning towards Baylor here, and I think something that we've seen in both pro football and college football is that these teams that have been off for a week and a half or 2 weeks or however long because of COVID are playing good football, itching to get back out there and succeeding right off the bat. So I think this lean that you guys have towards Baylor makes a lot of sense. All right, let's move to another Big 12 spot here, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. West Virginia, 3-1, 2-1 in the Big 12 at Texas Tech. Texas Tech 1-3, 0-3 in the Big 12. Texas Tech 3 straight losses. The last one at Iowa State, 31-15, have not looked good. Kansas State at Kansas State, 31-21, and West Virginia coming off a 38-17 win at Kansas. That was on the heels of a 27-21 double overtime win at home against Baylor. Let's see what we are getting here at 5:30. West Virginia, Texas Tech. West Virginia opening up as minus 3-point favorites, and it opened at Bet365 minus 3, minus 105. It's minus 3, minus 115 now, and we have seen the first 3.5s on the board for West Virginia. This total sitting at 57. Big 12 action. John Ryan, West Virginia, Texas Tech. Take it away, my man.
Well, Texas Tech was pretty well dominated last week, and it falls right into a pretty remarkable system I have here that I'll share with you guys. You're going to play on a road team, which is obviously West Virginia, after allowing 225 or less total yards in their previous game. Good defensive game then. Facing an opponent after being outgained by at least 175 total offensive yards in their previous game. The record goes into the 80% range if the team allowed 220 230 or more. I'm sorry, if the opponent was outgained by 230 or more yards in the last game. So I'm tweaking that first system to make it a game where they allowed even more yards than the 175, and that result gets into the 80% range over the last 5 seasons, and that supports West Virginia. So in this, I did run the model on this, and it's pretty likely West Virginia is going to score 28 points in this game. That's a reasonable assumption to make. And when West Virginia does, they're 10-3 against the number the last 3 years, and 120 and 60 for 67% winners over the last 10 years. So that 10 years spans a lot of different types of teams that West Virginia has had. They've had teams that have had excellent defenses and can't score. They've had teams that can put up 50 on any given week. So this definitely points me into the direction of West Virginia. And like I said, it's dependent on really whether anyone thinks that West Virginia will score more than 28. If you don't think that, then you don't want to take West Virginia.
Yeah, Jimmy, what was that final last week with West Virginia and Kansas? Do you have it?
Yeah, I just had it on the screen. West Virginia won 38-17.
Yeah, the second half. They had a big second half. Yeah, I don't like this here. Bowman's still out for Texas Tech. They didn't look well. I had them 15 against Iowa State. Iowa State's the better team. I think Texas Tech is still a pretty good football team. And I'd be on the other side. I'd be on Texas Tech. It's not enough points for me. If people like it, I'd just roll Texas Tech money line. I know you can get 3 in the hook. But West Virginia is still a young team. I think they're playing well. I don't like them going on the road, even with no crowd there in Lubbock. I don't love it. It's a pass.
A pass.
I got a pass there.
Think of it on this side of the equation, on the defense. West Virginia has given up 10, 27, 21, 17. Okay? Then we have Texas Tech, who, with all due respect to Houston Baptist, allowed 33 and won the game by 2 as a 41-point favorite. They then lost 3 in a row, allowing 63 to Texas in a non-overtime game, and then 31 at Kansas State, 31 at Iowa State. And that's the big difference for me. Not that I'm trying to convince you to come over to my side of the game, but
I'm not. And those are better offenses, though. Those are better offenses, I believe. West Virginia probably win this game. To me, that right now they have the better football team, for sure. But you got to go on the road, and like you said, it's not that hostile. So maybe they can get in there and come out and win, and cover. So right. I mean, I like the look. I got to pass, so that's why I didn't like it. But I'd be with a dog or nothing, but I don't like anything about it. So, pass.
Shannon Dan is on West Virginia first half, says he's a first half guy. West Virginia and Texas Tech 0-3 right now in the Big 12. And Nuke Worker saying Texas Tech 1-3 against the spread. Robert Cherry's birthday tomorrow. Enjoy it. So he's going to drink some yak. Get some early plays for Saturday, Sunday. Respect, Robert. Enjoy your birthday. Happy early birthday, my friend. There is West Virginia, Texas Tech. We have CMac saying dog or pass, home dog or pass, and John Ryan expecting to get to the window with West Virginia. Is that a fair statement?
Yep.
All righty. There we go. We are going to put a bow on this show with one last spot here, Big Ten spot, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 18th ranked Michigan at 21st ranked Minnesota. Last year, Michigan scored 32 points per game, but have just 4 returning starters on offense and a new quarterback. They returned 7 defensive starters on defense. Prince of the City says, my birthday is August. You have a birthday pick for me? No, I don't, Prince of the City, but we do have the game you want to talk about, Michigan, Minnesota. Cash action is on Mini +3, and Beach Boss says go blue. Golden Gophers end up bringing 8 starters back on the offensive side of the ball, bringing back 5 starters on defense and are raring to go this year. They look like a dangerous squad. But Michigan opens up as 1.5-point road favorites, and that quickly moves to 3. This total is at 55. John Ryan, what do you think of this spot, Michigan, Minnesota?
I'm with cash action again. I don't know if that's good or bad for them, but Michigan is a question mark coming into this season. I think last year, maybe you guys know the answer to this. Minnesota had all 11 defensive starters on that roster, or at least 10. And if I remember correctly, their defense was pretty good. So now it's reversed. Now they have the starting quarterback and 9 starters on offense. And Michigan is rebuilding, and they haven't, as I mentioned earlier in the show, they haven't had the recruiting years that you would expect a Michigan to traditionally have. So being -3, being ranked, Minnesota is not ranked, but they've been getting a lot of votes. I think Minnesota is actually the better team, and that offense will have such great chemistry here. First game of the year, they have 4 or all 5 of the offensive line coming back. And as you guys know, I've done a lot of studies on offensive lines with all of them coming back, and it's very, very beneficial for any team at the college level to have that luxury. It just makes everything run smoothly right out of the chute. So going against a Michigan defense that's only returning 6, I like Minnesota.
Minnesota being back here against Prince of the City's alma mater. Let's see what Connor Mack has to say about this. Michigan, Minnesota. Beach Boss says Minnesota can't hang with the Wolverines. What do you think here, CMac?
Man, the Wolverines, the last few years have been rough to bet on. Saturdays have been tough.
When was the last time Harbaugh beat Ohio State?
Never.
That's correct.
Right? Did he ever? Yeah. So, yeah. Jim Harbaugh, don't like him. Anyways, in this game, I like the offense, like you were saying, in Minnesota. I like Tanner Morgan and Bateman. He's a great receiver. I think he's one of the best. It's in the Big Ten, maybe top 5 or 10 in the country. It'll be good though. This line's pretty well. I thought they might even came out Michigan favored a little more just because they're Michigan, even though they're rebuilding. So it is lower. That's why I don't love it. Like I thought I could have seen 4.5, 5.5, but it's only 1.5. So it's got me a little bit to pause. And I'm probably going to watch this, like a lot of the Big Ten games we talked about, at least the first week. Just want to see, especially this game. I don't know what Michigan team you're going to get, but it would be Minnesota. I think they have the better football team right now than Michigan.
Think Minnesota can score 28 or more?
We'll see. Michigan, that defense for Michigan last year was up and down, and the year before that they played some amazing games and they got gashed. They gave up 35 to teams in the Big Ten or more than that, 42. So it's really hard to see what Michigan team's going to come out and play this week. It should be a good one. I definitely want to watch it for sure.
Yeah, me too.
For sure.
What is your expectation on market movement here? It's gone from, what did I say, 1.5 to 3 for Michigan. Does it get over that crucial 3? Is it going to get to? Could we see 3.5 on the board?
I think so.
Either that, or they increase the vig and keep it at 3.
Yeah, I mean, I see a 3.5 at DraftKings. I think it goes up a little bit. They won't go up too much more because then there'll be buyback with Minnesota. There won't be too much line movement up, and if it does, it'll drop by kickoff. I think back to where it is right now. It should.
So if you were wanting to bet on this game, you would tell a capper to wait?
Wait, for sure.
I agree.
Right now. Wait.
Yep.
Alrighty, there you have it. Michigan, Minnesota. We'll be talking a lot about this game as well on Saturday's kickoff show. Saturday's kickoff show. All right, we have broke down a bunch of NCAA football spots here. It comes to best bet time for you guys. Best bet time. Why don't we go with John Ryan? He gave us his best bet for Thursday, Friday as Tulsa. And it's okay if that stays your best bet on the entire card, John. You don't need to force a change here, so I don't feel like you have to. But John Ryan, best bet time. Let's hear it.
It's going to be Iowa State.
Ooh, okay. Let me get this here. Iowa State, best bet, Iowa State. And do you want that with the points, or are you going to take that money line?
I'll take a money line.
Ooh, big balls out today. Iowa State.
-3, right?
Yeah.
But I've done that. I mentioned that on the NFL show yesterday, that with the increase in scoring and the total lines being so much higher in the NFL and college football, there's an added benefit and advantage in taking the money line with any line that's 2.5, 2, 1.5, 1. It'll pay off taking the money line on any team you want to bet that's under 3-point dog.
Iowa State money line for John Ryan, best bet. We had a best bet for the Thursday-Friday action from our CMac. He did like the look for John on Tulsa, but CMac's best bet was the over 49 in Louisiana UAB. Now let's hear what his best bet is. I guess if we can, to Saturday football, if we can focus on Saturday. But no, you're not forced to do that. What is your best bet on the Saturday card, if possible?
I don't know. I like all my bets. Like normal. I'm the worst best bet man here, Jimmy. In the history of best bets. Anyways, give me Pittsburgh. I think it goes up even more than 11.5. I want the home dog in them. I'm not big on Notre Dame. Give me that as my best bet. The other one was the over in the Texas Baylor game, but give me Pitt at home. I think it's going to go up too a little bit.
There you have it. Best bets from John Ryan. Iowa State money line, big balls clanking around because you could get 3.5 right now.
I would take the money line.
Penn State too, because I know both of those are going to be. I know right now they're going to be 7-star bets. So let's just go with them now.
All right.
Yeah, get Penn State now.
Yeah,
6.5.
So
if people are on it, I'm just saying. I think it goes higher a little bit.
I agree.
It goes over 7.
So then, CMac, with that second best bet from John Ryan, did you want to add your Baylor total for best bet as well?
No.
You're gonna stay with Pittsburgh. Okay. No, it's important to hit them. Last week, best bets didn't go well. Let's get them this week. There you go. Thank you guys so much for watching our Monday Opening Lines NCAA football show. We'll be here every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Usually we'll have Nolly Knows with us. He had an internet issue, so he will be back in action next Monday. Big thanks to our experts, CMac and John Ryan. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And a big thank you to all the cappers in the chat. We got nothing without you guys. The Czar, Nuke Worker, Dennis Garcia, Cash Action Bets, Muhammad Joma, Gregory Simmons, Canas Cat, Michael Ervalina, Beach Boss, Prince of the City, Shannon Dan, Boston Nick, Ron Walsek. Says Fleck for the Gophers is the best coach in the country. Give me Minnesota money line. That's from our guy, Ron Walsek. Sunny Springs, Swervin. All you guys, thank you so much for your support. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and also follow us on Twitter at odds110. And tomorrow night, NFL back in business. Tuesday night, opening line show at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I feel just like everybody's coming off a giant Sunday, which I needed desperately. So can't wait to see you guys then. And our next college football show will be Saturday morning, NCAA kickoff show. Thank you guys. CMac, John Ryan, thank you guys. And let's have a profitable Monday. Good luck in Monday Night NFL Football.
Later, guys.
Thanks.